I hope you had yourself an amazing day, that is, if you're watching or listening from Kenya, because it's 7:03 East African time on the 14th of May 2024. And as a Kenyan, you know what it means. On the 14th, on the 13th of every month, we have the fuel price review. So I'm going to be telling you what happened with the latest fuel prices. Did the price of fuel drop? Was it increased? So I'm going to be telling you about that. And of course, I'm here to tell you about each and everything that was happening throughout the whole of Africa today. Starting from Niger, we're going to be talking about Niger. We are going to be talking about Tanzania. We're going to be talking about Nigeria. We are going to be talking about Nigeria again, with protests happening in Nigeria over electricity price hike following the removal of subsidies. Nigeria has had almost all its subsidies removed, but the electricity subsidies were still there. They were, however, removed. They were scrapped, and once they were scrapped, then the cost of electricity in the country went up. So that was why labor unions in Nigeria staged nationwide protests on Monday over recent increase in electricity prices because of the removal of subsidies. I'm going to be telling you about Sudan, where fires are being used as weapons to destroy towns in Sudan. So they are setting towns and villages ablaze. There's been a dispute that has been happening in Sudan for the past couple of years. I'm going to be telling you about that and how they are now using fires to destroy cities and towns. Sudan is a very oil-rich country, oil-rich country, talking about fuel. It is a country that has the capability of solving some of Africa's Africa's fuel problem, if at all Africa has a fuel problem, which I doubt. I really doubt whether Africa has a fuel oil problem, because we are one of the biggest producers of oil. And you look at Nigeria, you look at countries like Benin, you look at countries like Niger, you look at countries like Nigeria, they are oil wells, for lack of a better term. And talking about that, our main focus of the day will be the role that has been happening in Benin and Niger. Niger and Benin are having a kind of a border scuffle over petroleum export. So there is a company called China National Petroleum Corporation. China National Petroleum Corporation had a deal with Niger about exporting oil. And the reason Niger was entering into this deal, according to government sources, is that it wanted to use funds from the export to fund bond payment, which it missed while it was under regionally imposed sanctions. So just for context's sake, Niger went through a coup. Now the military took over power, and this led to sanctions that were imposed, some of them by the West, but most of them by the region, ECOWAS. The West African regional bloc imposed a lot of sanctions on Niger. So Niger had this plan to start exporting fuel, and it signed a 400 million USD deal with a state-owned oil major national. It's called the China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPET. So Niger signed this deal with China. Hi, Keith. Oh, I thought I had Keith on my stream. So I was talking about how Niger signed a deal with China, with the Chinese oil corporation, in a deal that was to a 400 million deal, 400 million USD deal, which was, as I said, supposed to fund the bond payments. However, there has been a problem because apparently Niger is landlocked. It doesn't have a port. So it needs a port for it to be able to export the fuel, for it to be able to bag the 400 million USD deal that it signed with China. So it was initially to use Benin's port. However, Benin has gone ahead and blocked Niger from using its port. And as I said, Niger is landlocked, so it has no way of exporting the oil deal. It has no way of going through the oil deal that it signed without Benin, because the two of them are neighbors. So it has to use Benin's port in order for the 400 million deal to go through. So Benin has come forward and said, you're not going to use our port. And the reason is this, which to some point, I do agree with Benin to some extent, because Niger is also acting bullish in this way. So Niger, when the ECOWAS, the Western region, imposed sanctions on Niger, it went ahead and also closed its borders for all its neighbors, including the Benin border. So it's not accepting any goods from Benin. Goods from Benin cannot enter Niger because the border is closed. So I want you to get me up to that point. So Niger closed its borders on Benin. So Benin's products can't close over to Niger because it has closed its borders to them. However, Niger still wants to use Benin's port while it has closed its borders to Benin. So they want to use Benin's port, but Benin can't. Citizens of Benin can't cross over to Niger. They can't sell their products in Niger. The border is closed. So on this, I think Niger is not should reconsider, because in as much as, even if I was the president of Benin, I would also not allow you to use my port if you've closed your border to me. And the president, Benin's president, his name is Patrice Talon, was speaking to the media, and the only thing he said was, if Niger wants to use our port, then they have to open its side of the border to us. It should. So he said, Niger should not treat us like enemies if they want to do business with us. And it does make sense, because if you want to use our port, then there's no way I'm going to allow you to use our port. There's no way I'm going to allow goods from your country into my country while you've closed your border for goods from my country to get into yours. So as African countries, if you have to trade, if we really have to go into these trades that we want to go into, we have to practice some level of fairness. So I do think that on this, Benin's president, Patrice Talon, is right to block Niger from using its port to export its crude oil, because it's a matter of fairness. It's a matter of, I'm treating you like a friend, so you have to treat me the same. It's a matter of, you can use my port, but you also have to open your border to me. So I don't know whether Niger is going to open the border to Benin, but it has to, because it really needs the 400. As I said, the 400 million USD was meant to pay bonds that it missed on. So it missed on a lot of bonds, because it was under regionally imposed sanctions. And Niger is still maintaining that the blockage is in violation of a dozen agreements that were signed by Benin, Niger, and the Chinese side relating to the recently launched PetroChina pipeline linking Niger's Agadem region to the Benin port of Cotonou. So Niger is still saying this is a violation of the contract that we signed between me, you, and the Chinese. You should allow us to use the port. That's what you said in the agreement. Benin, however, is saying it is only going to back down once Niger reopens its borders for goods from Benin and normalize relations. So Benin is saying, we have no enmity with you, just open your borders and normalize relations, and we are going to allow you to use our port. So that was Zain is the one who was speaking, saying that the oil exports were very important to Niger's economy because they were meant to facilitate the payments of the bonds that it missed on. So the relationship between the two countries have been having strains for quite some time, ever since. So let me tell you where the strains came from in the relationship between Niger and Benin, the two neighbors. It started in July 2023 when a coup in Niger led to ECOWAS imposing sanctions on Niger for more than 6 months. So one of the countries that were perpetrating this, that was supporting this, that were part of the sanctions was Benin. So of course Niger closed the borders to Benin because were you my neighbor and part of the group that is sanctioning me? So the sanctions were being put in an effort to have the military hand back to the puppets, the government that was there before, and Benin participated in that. However, the sanctions were later raised when it became apparent that Niger was not going back that route anymore, and that it was done with uh, being led by politicians who did not care about it. And once the sanctions were lifted, Niger never lifted its own sanctions on Benin. That is the border. It never reopened the border. However, it looks like Niger is the one that needs Benin more than Benin needs Niger because, as I said, Niger is landlocked and has a lot of oil. It's a oil-rich country but landlocked. So it really does need Benin in order to be able to trade, in order to be able to export some of its fuel products, like the deal that it signed with China. So I feel like it's at this point, Niger should reopen the Benin side of the border as a gesture, you know, to show Benin that we do not treat you like enemies anymore, because at the end of the day, they are not your enemies. The people of Benin are not your enemies. They are your fellow Africans. They might be getting, their leaders might be, they might still be under puppet leadership, but they're still your brothers. So at the end of the day, you need to reopen the borders with some of the borders that you closed as a cautionary measure, one of them being the Benin border. So that is what has been happening in Niger and Benin, with Benin still saying, we are not, if you want, so this is what he said, and I quote, if you want to load oil in our waters, you must consider that Benin is not an enemy country and that its territory cannot be the subject of illicit trafficking or informal exchange. And he said, if tomorrow the Nigerians authority decide to collaborate with Benin in a formal manner, the boats will be loaded. Niger's military junta has not yet responded to these comments, but as you can see, Talon is willing to work with the Nigerian government, with the people of Niger. He is willing to have the boats loaded with oil. He is willing to have Niger use its water. He is willing to have uh, normalized relations with Niger, but on one condition: Niger has to open the borders to them. They also have to be allowed to send their goods over there. So as I told you, the country has been producing, Niger has been producing about 20,000 barrels per day, but that has been primarily for domestic consumption due to lack of an export route. So when I say Niger actually does need Benin more than Benin does need Niger, it's not an exaggeration, because Niger needs an export route. It's landlocked. It's like Uganda. It needs an export route. And that is why there has been a construction of a Chinese-built pipeline that passed through Benin. It's a 2,000-kilometer long pipeline, and the production was set to go up to 110,000 barrels from the 20,000. So at the moment, Niger only produces 20,000 barrels for domestic consumption because they don't have a route to export from. So the deal would see Niger raise its production value from 20,000 barrels to 110,000 barrels. That is an additional 90,000 barrels a day. That is good money for the people of Niger. Good money. So part of the money, as I told you, would have gone into paying the bonds, but that is a lot of money. I'm sure with how Niger is operating nowadays, with it being part of the African countries that are trailblazing a whole new generation of African leadership and everything, I'm sure part of the money would have gone into development. So if I were Niger, I would open the border to Benin, just regulate it. Opening it does not mean you openly open it. If you look at other borders, for example, Kenya and Uganda have an open border, but there is a custom control in the border. So they check on everything that you're bringing into the country and regulate and actually tax it. So it would be a good idea for Niger to open the border to Benin and control it. It's going to be a controlled border post, not an open border post. And at the end of the day, Niger is the one that is going to benefit more from opening the border than Benin is, because Benin is not landlocked and it doesn't have 90,000 extra barrels of oil to export every day, but lack a route. So Niger's refusal to open the border is affecting the in turn affecting them more than it is going to affect Benin. So, but that is just but my opinion. Of course, you can have yours. You can tell me what you think. Should Niger open its borders to Benin to allow for oil exports? That is from to allow for Niger to start exporting its fuel to the Chinese in a 400 million USD dollar in a 400 million US dollars deal that it signed with Chinese owned oil corporations to have it export it has actually already built a pipeline to have it export oil fuel to China. You can tell me what you think about that. I just shared my thoughts. So in other parts of the country, we saw in Tanzania today, the US did close its embassy in Tanzania, as Tanzania is facing a complete internet outage. We are having internet problems in Kenya, but it is not a complete internet outage. It is just fluctuations, Like yesterday during my show, the internet went down. During Joby's show, it came back. Then it was acting that way. But in Tanzania, they're having a complete internet outage, and the U.S. embassy in Tanzania declared a closure for 2 days due to that, and there is a total nationwide network degradation in Tanzania. Looks like they are the ones who are affected more uh, after what they said was a submarine cable cut. The same was happening in South Africa, as I said yesterday. The same happened in West Africa. The submarine cable cuts look like they're strategic, and they have been happening all over Africa, especially in the last couple of months. This has also affected telecommunication companies like Safaricom. There has been disruption in the communication, in the whole of communication, but it hasn't been as bad as it is in Tanzania. It has been just fluctuations in the speeds every now and then. I told you in Nigeria, the unions and people are out in the streets protesting electricity price hike following the removal of subsidies in Nigeria. So it started with when Bola Tinubu took power, he removed the oil subsidies on fuel, and that of course led to an increase in the price of almost all basic commodities. However, with Nigeria facing inflation and a lot of economic woes because of poor economic policies, poor decisions, economic policies, copy pasting Western policies and putting them, copy pasting policies. Nigeria has on Monday lifted subsidies on electricity also, and now the people hate the nerve and they are in the streets protesting because of that. Because of course, that will not just affect the domestic consumption, it is going to affect the price of each and every commodity, because you need electricity to run industries, you need electricity to so once the price of electricity goes up, then that means the price of every commodity in Nigeria is set to go up in a few, because you don't do away with electricity subsidies. That is what drives the economy. Two subsidies you don't ever touch: fuel subsidies and subsidies on energy, that is electricity, because fuel subsidies, once economies run on fuel, we need fuel to run generators, we need fuel to in the chain of distribution to distribute products from the farmers to the industries, from the industries to the retailers to the consumers. So once you touch on the price of fuel, then the price of everything shoots up. The second thing is the price of electricity. Once you touch on the cost of electricity, then you've touched on the production cost, and of course, the cost of everything, the price of everything will go up, and that is why Nigerians understanding this are in the streets protesting. How are you doing, Keith?
I'm good. I noticed you was live because I seen you on the network.
Oh, I've been here for some time now, talking about Niger and Benin having a border. They're having a whole disagreement in, and I really wanted to know what you think about this. I was hoping you'd join because on this, I think Niger is also not acting so wisely on this
Well,
specific issue.
what about the Pacific Institute? You're saying, Lamar?
So Niger is a very oil-rich country, very oil-rich, has a lot of fuel in it, oil in it, but it doesn't have an export route. It's a landlocked country, so it doesn't have an export route. That's why for the last couple of years, months, it has been producing 20,000 barrels a day, but only for domestic consumption. It doesn't have a route to export its oil.
Mm-hmm.
So it signed a deal with China. It went into a deal with China National Petroleum Corporation, a 400 million USD deal that would see it export 90,000 more barrels to China. And it constructed a pipeline from Niger across Benin to the port of Benin. So it was supposed to start exporting the fuel as early as this week, but Benin has blocked Niger from using its port. Just said you're not gonna use our port
Yeah,
to export.
that's why. Yeah,
No, and
because
the reason for that, on this I support Benin. The reason they blocked the port is because Niger has also blocked its Benin side of the border, so it has blocked the
they
Benin.
blocked them because they were about to invade them. That's why they didn't block their ass. They were going to raise war on them.
Yeah, but kid, it's okay that happened then. Right now, Niger needs Benin in order to export
I
oil.
don't need you. I use Morocco. Morocco and Algeria,
And,
they use them. Forget Benin.
for
So
them to have the already the petroleum line has already been constructed. For all that to happen, it means that Niger really had looked into Morocco and decided Benin was the better option. And Benin is asking that Niger, for it to allow Niger to export oil from their port, they have to reopen their side of the border.
I'd be like, no, hell no.
Now, personally, if I were Niger, in this situation, just a minute, kid. In this situation, Niger needs Benin more than Benin needs Niger because
Of
Benin
course,
is not landlocked. Benin can export its oil. So if I were Niger, I would reopen the border but control it. There is what we call control border posts. I would reopen the border, allow Benin to trade with me because Benin's president was speaking today, and the only thing he said, let me read for you what he said. He said, if tomorrow the Nigerian authorities decide to collaborate with us in the opening of the borders, the boats will be loaded. So all he's asking is for the borders to be open. So why not open the border and control it? Have your army in the border controlling whatever comes in, whatever goes out, and in exchange you will be able to export 90,000 extra barrels to China, and you'll be able to get 400 million USD for your people. So what is wiser, you closing your borders and having producing oil only for domestic consumption, or you opening your border and controlling it and earning 400 million USD in the deal? So which one is wiser, Keith?
I don't know. I don't trust you.
It's your border. You can control it as you want. You can have your army in the border controlling whatever comes in.
Okay.
You're the one who needs Benin more than Benin needs you.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I were Niger, I would really consider that because otherwise they'll just have a lot of oil, barrels and barrels of oil in them that don't help the people. Because as I told you, right now it produces about 20,000 barrels per day, but they are only for domestic consumption. Why? Because
I
it
agree.
lacks an export route. And if really Morocco was an alternative, I'm sure they would have ventured into that before going to Benin, which they have been having they have the enmity between Niger and Benin has been there since 2023, since there was a coup in Niger, because Benin was among the countries that were part of the group that was sanctioning Niger. So after that, that is when the enmity started, because Benin was also against Niger's new transition. So if really Morocco was an alternative, they wouldn't have gone to Benin. I'm sure of that. So we'll wait and see what Niger is going to do, whether they are going to open the borders or not. So I wanted to hear
Well, I don't
your
know.
opinion. Would you open the border if you are the president of, if you are the one in charge of Niger?
Well, I have no choice until I have to make sure certain stipulations are met because I don't trust no Benin.
Mm-hmm.
That's a puppet state. So if I open my border, I'm open to all kind of heinous stuff coming in with the Americans and the rest of the Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to the president of the president of the president of Senegal said he's getting out of ECOWAS. He called he said
But I don't trust that man, Keith. Do you know the first guest that he met when he took power? The first person he met was the EU
because
chairperson,
because because he met
European
them.
Union chairperson.
Well, he's got to meet with these people tomorrow. He's got no choice. I'm
But
saying him getting
who
out of
is the
ECOWAS
first
and
person he met? Mhm.
calling Tinubu a false leader who didn't win the election. I like that. That Africans will never speak that. They're calling Kofi Dada Dudu in Ghana one of the most corrupt men in Africa. That's something real. So meet with the EU. You got to keep these enemies at bay. Tomorrow, you understand. You are weak. These people are you on on the table of prey. You're trying to
Mhm.
keep them at bay so you can develop, so they won't overthrow you. They got spies running all throughout Senegal. There's spies in all these African countries. Like we said, these NGOs. These NGOs are everywhere. And they're
Mhm.
not good. So I gotta look like I'm playing ball with you. I know you're gonna try to overthrow me, Demore. So I gotta at least talk with you. I have no choice. I'm in a unattainable situation because you
And
have
on the same,
throat. Go ahead.
on the same, I understand that, Keith. On the same narrative, I also think the Sahel country, for example, Niger, should, it's, in as much as they are breaking away from the old norm of having puppet leadership, they have to understand that they can't survive as alone as an independent, and alone they can't survive, because you'll also need the other African countries. You'll need to trade with other people, because if for example Kenya was to have a Uganda was to have a coup tomorrow, and the military takes over, it still needs to trade with Kenya, it still needs to trade with Tanzania. So also those countries have to also put into consideration that they can't operate as an island. They have to operate with people who they know are their enemies, but
That's what
cautiously.
I said. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I said they had no choice but to meet with these people. Because remember, all
Mhm,
outside goods come from Europe. Africa is not allowed to trade with each other. So I
mhm,
agree. So I got to meet these bastards. I'm not liking it, Demore, but my
mhm,
people still got to eat. We have not set up these level of um, self-sustaining functions that have benefited us. So I agree. I got no choice because I haven't, and then the only people I got around me right now are just getting up on their feet. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. I can't go to Ghana, no good ass. I can't go to Nigeria. So I've got no choice but to start where I'm at and try to maneuver this lake. Okay, imagine me, Demore. I'm in a river full of sharks.
mhm,
Okay, I mean, it's sharks all around me. Okay, I'm trying to maneuver through the sharks. I got doing the best I can. So if I'm in a tank full of sharks, I gotta talk to some of the sharks so everybody don't eat me up. Got no choice. I I didn't create the situation. This is where I find myself at, trying to do the best I can. You
mhm.
got to get more.
Yeah, I do understand that. So I personally, the first time that I saw that the first person they met, the president of Senegal met was the EU chairperson. I was worried for a moment there, because I thought he was gonna be a Magufuli or something, because Magufuli never met with any of those people.
No, he
But you
refused.
might you might argue that that is the reason he's not here with us today.
Well, no, the reason he wasn't here is
Mhm,
because of that COVID-19 thing that he blew the word on it, and the whole thing was to do something to African people. I feel like that, try to be coded. The whole thing was to, you know, unalive African people. He knew
But
this scientifically, so he refused to go along with it.
If
That
there
was
is one thing Magufuli showed us is that you don't have to, in as much as
no,
Magufuli never traveled outside Africa, never went to meet any European
no. He
country.
said why? Exactly right. The more he said what? What am I getting from any of these goofy meetings? Nothing. Exactly. Why am I going to them and the resources are with me? Why am I meeting them and they're not
Mhm.
coming to me? So you're right, Demore. Why would if you got all the gold, Demore? Why are you coming to me? You got all the gold.
That is why Bassirou Faye, Diomaye Faye, the president of Senegal, did disappoint me for a little bit there because I thought he was going to be a Magufuli, considering the hype that had been around him. And of course, the fact that he was released from, I thought he was going to be another Western, a Magufuli, another Magufuli in the making. But
He's got this.
clearly, he's not going to be a Magufuli,
I don't
clearly.
know. You got to have a transition. I think he's doing well. He hasn't done nothing. He hasn't signed any bad deals yet, Demore. He's cleaning the house. He's he lost an investigation of who's been stealing money, and
Mhm.
people mad because they know he called out the president and their cabinet, and of course Africa. This is tribalism. You're only doing it because he's not your tribe. I'm doing it because he been stealing money. I lost. He's stealing money, not because he's not political.
Mhm.
Africans got to grow up. I launched an investigation and say who's been stealing the money out the country. He's been doing it. What do you want? Him and his cabinet.
Mhm.
But the other Africans in Senegal saying that this is tribal. It's not tribal. Shit. I'm trying to restore actual, real governance as an African president. So,
He's actually doing good for the first thing that he did when he took power before meeting the EU chairman. Of course, he wanted to renegotiate. He's actually doing that.
we
He's
renegotiating all the bad
renegotiating
deals.
all the oil contracts with foreign
Yeah,
operators.
you get rid of them
He
fake
wants to
contracts
understand
that
every
benefit.
clause of the oil contracts.
Exactly. You get rid of them bad deals, the more they only benefit Europeans and leave your people impoverished. Like I said, you got the gold, the more in the oil, but you're coming to me to meet. What? What? You got all the shit. You coming to me? It's backwards. So
So,
he, he, he,
uh,
he's got to be smart, the more. It's gonna be a bullet in his head. It's got to be he's he's got to be tempered in his meeting because they're not happy with him. So understand Africa and Africans, it's a dance of death. Okay, and you haven't set the infrastructure that's going to save you because they're going to come for you.
I actually think I judged him too early because I'm looking at I'm looking at what they
Yes.
discussed. Even what they discussed in the meeting was, so among the first things that he has done, one is he's looking into auditing fishing agreements with the EU. So one of the reasons they met was because he wanted an audit
Yeah.
of, yeah. And the other thing he said, actually in the speech after he met, I never looked at what they talked about. I was just disappointed when I saw him with the EU chairperson.
You got
However, this is what they talked
Jamari.
about.
Jamari,
Yeah.
you're a journalist. You're supposed
I
to
was
go deeper.
no, I was very
Don't go with,
disappointed at
don't
that
go with the feelings, Jamari.
because
You're a
how is
journalist.
the first person you meeting the EU?
Dig deeper first, Jamari.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now, and it actually looks like it was a good meeting because in his speech after the meeting, this is what he said. He said he's calling for a rethink of the country's relationship with the EU. He wasn't there bootlicking them. He was telling them we need to rethink our relationship with you. And he actually said that the two parties should not dread broaching difficult subjects if it meant bringing improvement for both sides, pointing to fisheries issue in particular. He said that the fishing deal with the EU was not at all benefiting the people of Senegal and it
No, it's
needed
not.
to be revised.
None of these deals benefit African people. So he's
Mhm,
there. So he's telling. So he's trying to be diplomatic,
mhm,
Demore. So I'm gonna be nice first. I don't want a bullet in the head.
mhm,
People always say, "What really killed?" They were going to kill him anyway because he still was going to take Congo back.
mhm.
Patrice Lumumba gave a speech and it was very brutal to the Europeans. It was very Europeans don't like Africans to be honest, Demore. You're supposed to be bootlicking and cowardly. But Patrice Lumumba went to Europe and said, Africa, we're going to control our resources. That money's going to go to us. We don't care how you feel, how you think. And people in that meeting were pissed off. Like, what? What? Who? Who's this nigga talking to? so,
and they gave him a visit, of course.
Yeah, he was very mad. Before he made it back to Congo, they'd already overthrew his ass. They always got their puppet. They get this motherfucker out of here. Think he talking to. so if you ain't built up a military and the necessary clandestine agencies around you to protect you, Demar, you're in an ocean full of sharks.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna bite your ass. So be cautious first until you build up a protection around you. Mm-hmm. See, Magufuli was outspoken, but he didn't build no protection around him. Not saying they're gonna get rid of him. He think he playing in the deep end with the sharks. You talk that shit up you want to, Magufuli. They're coming to see you. They're gonna say you had a heart attack or you bled somewhere, some fake shit. But we know they killed your ass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they been had the heart attack gun, Demore, back in the 70s, where they could fake. Remember he said he had a heart attack? They shoot a wave energy at you. You know where it come from, and it falsifies the heart attack. If you don't believe me, you can look it up on Google. The heart attack gun. See how it that way back in the 60s, Demore. You walking down the street, I shoot a wave energy at you. You're like, Say, damn, Demore died of a heart attack. But there was nothing wrong with him. We didn't know there was nothing wrong with him. He was all fucked up.
It looks like Deal-B.H.F.N is a very strict student of Robert Greene's, because it looks like he's following the 48 laws of power. Because law 2 says, is it law 2 that says keep a close eye on your enemy?
Yes.
Yeah, keep your friends close, but your enemies close. Learn how to use your enemies.
Exactly. That's what I'm telling you. Exactly right, Demore. Yeah, you read the book, damn right. I'm telling you, you got to keep your enemies closer, Demore. That's as a real African trying to break free of these parasites. You're going to have to keep them close. You got to wind and down and smile their face while you're trying to stab them in the back.
I guess the thing that made me have that skepticism about Diomaye was the timing and how things happened. You know, it was like 3 weeks to the election. He has been released, and then African elections are never really that fair. I mean, the timing was suspicious, to be specific.
It was
suspicious, to be honest, Keith. He was released a few weeks to the election. Then he's the one on the hype. Then he has won. Such things don't just happen by coincidence.
I know, but look, I'm saying sometimes it's too. Sometimes this happens, but they can't rig the election because the it's too overwhelming. They were trying to. Everybody tried to move it way back to December so they could rig it, get their puppet in there. But the people had forced it. They were going to rip the country. You couldn't see the people are the power, Demore. They couldn't be subjected. They weren't going to stop. They're going to tear the bitch to pieces. So they figured they could still control the election, but it was too overwhelming. Sometimes it's just nothing you can do when it's just overwhelming. Like, goddamn, we can't even rig this shit. It's too overwhelming. Anybody gonna believe anybody gonna believe we put this puppet in there? It's too overwhelming.
What I'm saying is actually true, because the original plan was to have Macky Sall postpone the elections up to until December. Yeah.
Exactly. It's too overwhelming. People weren't going to go for that. They were going to burn Senegal down to the ground. That's why you got them right now. The Africans are waking up. They just burned down the Zimbabwean dam. The Zimbabweans burned down the American base. The Angolans then told the Americans to get the fuck out. The Botswanas then told them to get the fuck out. So who else? Botswana, Angola told them, get your ass out of here. Another country. There's an awakening happening in Africa. That's what they're scared of. But you're not going to stop this. So Africa's like, since you're the same people, you reach a certain conscious, it's called there's a conscious threshold being an African. No matter if you're sitting in Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal, it's a collective consciousness is called. Once
And it, mhm,
too many Africans have reached this collective consciousness, the more it's overnight. Everybody knows. I told you, look up the 100 monkey test.
mhm,
And us as a people, look up the 100. What is the 100 monkey test? So they know this. Once Africans reach a collective consciousness, it's over. They've always tried to stop that with distractions. Once the African reach a collective consciousness, it's like a domino effect. It can't be stopped. And you're reaching this point, and they know that, but they're scared. They're like trying to put soft power back in Africa. Let's be friends. We love you. All that. No, Africans reaching a collective consciousness. When that happens, it's a domino effect. All of Africa is going to be ungovernable. Not by them. It's going to go back in the hands of black people. That's what they're trying to stop. And that's just, and that's the law of science. It's a collective consciousness. You're the same people. So once the Africans reach this, that's why they want to keep you docile with religion and tribalism. Once that goes by the wayside, once you got a collective consciousness, say, God damn, I'm the same motherfucker as in the motherfucker. My conditions are the same as Senegal and Nigeria. What? I don't want to hear about no tribe shit. We all fucked up. Let's get.
And if there's one lesson that I've just checked up the 100th monkey test about how collective a new behavior or idea is spread rapidly by they are saying by unexplained means from one group.
Yeah, it's collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So
If there's one lesson that Niger has taught us is that even as African countries, we are not saying that do not trade with the West, do not trade with China, do not trade with Russia, do not trade with the US.
Exactly.
Just make sure you're the one on the upper side of the table. Make sure you're benefiting from it. Because, for example, in this deal, Niger was getting 400 million USD for the oil export. That is good money for the poor of Niger.
Well, it's saying you make sure, exactly, you're not a child that people have come to Africa with their industries and have nothing but extracted wealth out of Africa, leaving nothing but giving money back to their puppets, to their phonies, making their families rich, but leaving all Africans impoverished and very little development. So, no, that's got to stop.
Yeah, because I'm saying this because people sometimes confuse what we're trying to say with us trying to they think we're telling Africa to not trade with China, to not trade with the West. We cannot live in a cocoon. We cannot live in an isolated. Yeah, we are not isolated. We have to trade with these people. Only make sure that you're the one on the upper side of the table. You're the one calling the shots because you're the one with the resources.
Exactly. Exactly. They're not coming to be your friend. They're coming because you got the shit I need. You have the resource, so you need the power is in your hands. You got to take back power. You got to be unapologetic about it because they're unapologetic stealing it from you. So listen, now, what am I getting? It's got to benefit me more because I have it. You don't. You think you're supposed to come and extract, and that's how the colonial system was set up. That Africans never benefit from what's theirs. That's why King Leopold wrote that goofy letter. Don't let these dumb niggas know what's under their feet. Like what? Tell them about heaven. Shit. That's real. What? Fuck heaven, God damn it. My gold is under my feet. You have fucking heaven. You die, get your heaven on your streets of gold bullshit. I need the wealth that's in Africa. You want my wealth? Okay, no more cell phones, no more computers, no more cars, no more nothing. See, that's how Africa's got to be. What benefits me and my people? Like I said, Demore, Africa's so rich. This shouldn't be a poor African. That's how wealthy that place is. This shouldn't be a poor African at all. At all. That's how I'm not saying some people should be well. Everybody in Africa should be fucking well off. That's how wealthy the place is. It's insanely. That's why everybody works against your uniting. Because if you make a United States of Africa, motherfucker. Oh my God. That means all the wealth in the continent benefits the African. Man, shit. You're talking about unbelievable wealth. They just caught these morons, the UN again, just caught them stealing gold out of Namibia. What are peacekeepers doing? There's no terrorists in Namibia. Why is the UN in Namibia? What is the NGOs doing in Namibia? Demore. It's caught them sounding like like 30 sacks of gold and uranium. Yeah. Why are there peacekeepers in Namibia? There's no but they'll put there's terrorism in Namibia. We gotta have peacekeepers there so they can steal 30 sacks. I said, God damn, the gold was worth $1 billion. $1 billion they stole. They got caught though, but those are the ones that got caught. So man, how much they've been stealing out of Namibia to begin with, in all parts of Africa. It's it's crazy. He say Africans through colonization don't think they should be exactly right. Right? They don't think they should be rich. Even the black Muslims think this way. They all think this way. It's crazy. It's cat shit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's their friend. And everybody, you don't get nobody. Can nobody argue with you? Is Africa the richest continent? It's not even a honest question. Like what? Yeah. And we're not talking about just for the minerals. Even agricultural Africans should be millionaires just by the damn food they grow. They got the best land. Not only they got all the minerals, they got the best land for growing shit and stock. It's crazy. They have an African starving. It's crazy. You colonized in the head. The richest place on the planet. Shit, crazy. I got fucking cabetas and people in Nigeria swimming on shit. You crazy. That's a colonized mind. You got what we supposed to live in. Let's go pray to this cracker Jesus they gave us. And those shit changed. They said, well, I feel good. Like I feel good coming out of church. Have your conditions changed? No, but I feel good. Oh, okay, well, good luck with that. Go ahead.
To put what Keith is saying into perspective, for example, with the new Niger-China deal, Niger was to earn $7 million a day from. No. It was Benin that was to earn $7 million a day from oil transit fees alone. Oil transit fees. I'm not even talking about the oil value in itself. So even Benin having the oil passed through, it was to earn $7 million. That is how rich. The deal in itself was worth 400 million for 90,000 extra barrels of oil. So imagine how if we had more deals like this and the money actually went down into development, even though the money, the Niger had said that it was going to use the money to pay bonds. It had unpaid bonds from when it had sanctions. So the money was
Pay
going.
your loans. Shout out to Ibrahim Torre told you I'm not. See how the IMF came to Ibrahim and said we want to give you loans. He told you no, go away. Africa doesn't need any loans or any investment. You want what I got, you're gonna pay for it. I don't need none of your investment. The money's there. You want what I got? Yeah, we need it. Then you're gonna pay for the shit. I don't need no damn investments and loans and shit. That's crazy talk. So rich we can have the rest of the world as our that's how rich it is. That's how wealthy it is. It's crazy how wealthy Africa is. It's insane.
Man, if you look at other countries, I'm just focusing on the oil alone, kid. I've not even spoken about the other. I'm using oil alone to put into perspective how rich Africa can be. Let me use can be, because saying is being unrealistic. It is, but we are not seeing the richness materialize in the physical. So let's use can be. So Niger is not even top 10 big oil producers in Africa. For example, Nigeria produces about 1.9, that is 2 million barrels per day of oil, and yet it is poor like that.
They don't benefit from none of it because of the colonial laws that are in place that they haven't changed. Because
simple mathematics. If Niger can get 400 million USD from 90,000 barrels of oil, how much can Nigeria get from 2 million barrels a day? It's 90,000 to 2 million.
Demore, all of Africa is supposed to look like Dubai. Demore. Factual. All of Black Africa should be looking better than fucking Dubai. So that's the question. That's the question. See, so they got to stop you 100 monkeys from waking up. Because all that money then built China, then built Europe, then built America. Africa has built the world 10 times over by leaving Africa, what, underdeveloped. They've told you that's the scam. That's what it's been.
So instead of Nigeria trying to do that, by the way, majority of Nigeria's crude oil goes to the United States. You run on Nigeria's oil.
It goes to the United States and it goes to United States and Europe. They control it. Remember the Rothschild family controls they own Shell. Dutch Shell's owned by the Rothschilds. So, and then they don't even refine it. They send it to Korea, South Korea, so they make money off the shit Korea. So don't blame us that the black people are stupid. We refine it and then sell it back to them. How you selling me back my own fucking products? Goddamn, Demore.
I actually find it ridiculous when I talk about Nigeria and oil fuel subsidies, because what are you subsidizing? You produce the oil. What are the subsidies for? But now Nigeria pays subsidies for oil. So it produces oil, exports it, it gets refined, then it has to subsidize the importation of the oil it exports.
Doesn't make because it doesn't work. It's crazy. You sound crazy when you just say it. They're supposed to have refining there. They're supposed to have control of it, but they don't. When the British left, the Rothschilds were going to give up Nigeria's oil without a fight. They put their puppets in. The puppets have kept it wealthy for them, while even destroying their ecosystem. The region where the oil is developed down the Delta of Nigeria, they devastated that shit. The damn ecology. They don't give a shit about black people. They devastated that shit, Demore. The environmental damage they've done down there, they don't care. Because black people have fuck them. We're going to extract the money out of this shit. They've let black people fucked up in the Nigerian Delta. Water, dirty water, can't even basement oil and shit in it. Just because
now Nigeria with its 2 million barrels of oil per day can't even. The people are in the streets. I reported that today Nigerians were in the streets protesting the high cost of electricity, which in
they can't even make their own electricity. Look at that. The country's full of not just diamonds, gold, all that shit in Nigeria. It's crazy. You can't. You're talking about a system that was set up by puppets. I gotta get that. But shout out to Dr. Mummy talking about Kenya. They got it. Kenya's a plantation. I've been told that. Don't get mad at me when he said that. He said, you know what? Kenya's a plantation. It's not a country. The land is controlled by these puppets that they put in charge and the white people. We're just slaves on it. Kenya's not a country. It's not a
900.
Huh?
I'm trying to calculate if 90,000 barrels. I'm using Niger as
it's not a barrels,
because Niger is doing things the right way. If 90,000 barrels equal to 400 million USD in terms of value, what about 2 million?
It's in the billions, Demore. Every day it's in the billions. Billions of dollars, Demore. That's stolen from Africa. You know how much they say stolen from Africa? Like I think every year it's like 5 or 10 trillion. Is it the trillions being stolen out of Africa? Trillions. I can't even. Number maybe 20 trillion a year. A year. Trillion, man.
It's crazy if you think about it. And as we come to the end of the show, Joby is coming up in a bit. Today we've been talking about the disagreement, the border row that has been happening between
Niger and Benin. Africa, Demore, and the motherfucker can't afford a boat of ugali. What? Make it make sense.
I'm still trying to calculate because I want to get.
I know because the number's so damn big. Your ass trying to
let me read the figure before I read.
Go take your time. It's in the billions, damn it. Take your time.
Because
the number's a big number, Demore. It's big. That's just the oil, not counting the other shit that's in Nigeria, the gold, the bauxite, the platinum, the uranium, the diamonds, all that shit.
Let me do the calculation. Just give me a minute to see
Yeah,
how much Nigerians would be earning in a day
yeah, take your
in
time.
comparison to what Niger is doing. Niger is earning 400 million for 90,000 extra barrels. That is in the deal that they signed with China.
In a
So
billion,
they will earn it equals to 9 billion.
9 billion a year.
No, 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 for the I calculated with the extra barrels that Niger is selling
Is that
to
is that every day or a month?
I don't know if they're selling every day. That was the deal that they signed. It was for
Yeah, usually,
90,000 barrels. Yeah,
yeah, usually nine
extra
thousand dollars.
90,000 barrels.
That's usually a day. So that's
Yep,
nine
that
billion.
is 9 billion.
That's
Imagine how much
9 billion
transformation 9
dollars a day.
billion US dollars would do to Nigeria if the money
That's
was
nine
actually
billion
put
dollars
to
a
good use.
day.
Mhm.
$9 billion a day to more. So count that times 365.
Let me just multiply
That
and see.
that's just yeah. Time to time you multiply the time, but time thing time 365. That's how wealthy just Nigeria. That's just one resources. That's
Mhm.
one amongst many. Now imagine use the United States of Africa.
I can't even read the number.
See, that would
It's
be
too big.
shared. Using
I don't know whether it is in the billions or
that's,
in the trillions.
that's in the trillions. So imagine if
The
it
number
was.
is too big for me to read, for me to
So
count.
imagine if using the United States of Africa, just that little
Mhm.
part of oil, not all of Africa, just come from there. The wealth every year that brings into Africa, what? That's why they don't want you to unite. They don't want no United
Yeah, yeah.
States of Africa.
We're not even talking about the gold. We're not talking about the cobalt. We're not
Whoa!
talking about the uranium. We're
You
just
just
talking
ain't one
about.
little piece of damn oil in one small country, Nigeria. We're not talking about all of Angola, Kenya,
Mhm.
Niger, Mali, Burkina, everywhere. Then all the gold in Africa. You,
And
you
as
just
we come to the end, let me read the comments so that
that
I
much
end
love,
the show.
family.
Yeah, Ikan was saying Africans through colonization. Shout out to Ikan Fire who was with me. He was saying Africans through colonizations don't think they should be rich. Even the black Muslims think this way. Yeah, every African thinks South Africa is rich because they were colonized for longer. If you ask any African in the streets, they're gonna tell you South Africa is the richest
Wow!
country in Africa because the whites were there for longer. That is a fact. That is what they say. That is what I grew up knowing. So they say
Wow!
that if Kenya was colonized for maybe 30 more years, we would be more
Wow!
developed than.
This
That's a fact. You ask
dang,
anybody on the show, she'll tell you the same.
More just depressed the hell out of me. God damn!
Now that's the mentality.
It,
That's
uh,
what
this,
we grew up knowing.
this is so dangerous. This is
Yeah.
so backwards. You don't have no confidence in yourself. This is
So
so.
they'll tell you, imagine the white man came in 1890s, left in 1940s. He left us with the railways, the roads,
Railroads
the
didn't benefit
development.
no
So they
Kenyans.
say if they were here for 30 more years, Kenya would be as developed as South Africa. And that is what I grew up knowing.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Now, if they stayed, yeah, it would be developed because white people are gonna develop their shit. They're not gonna
Mhm.
stay. They're not gonna let nobody just steal everything out of that they're living. That's true. But you would have been worse off. You would have been your God just wouldn't have been no black people and like you would have been dumb, just as dumb as the South Africans are right now. You would have been illiterate, not
Mhm.
knowing shit. You would have run around. Even though you think South Africa's developed, yeah, it is. But when you go down there, you see the Africans as servants, serving white people. It is disturbing. I went down there, it broke my heart. I cried. I told you, when they invited me back to their house, I had to go outside because I cried. I went
Mhm.
outside. I said, brother, come back. I went back to their township. They didn't have no running water in there and shit. No, and I'm being very respectful. I'm like, God damn. Shit. It's worse than we got in America. We fucked it. It's even worse.
But apparently people think we would be more developed. And Jiba Jaba says Nigeria should look like Dubai. And Ikan Fire is telling me 9 billion barrels, not dollars. No, we're talking about not the barrels. Nigeria produces 2 million barrels a day. So we converted that with So we were using the Niger recently signed a deal with China. So we were using the deal that Niger signed with China as the reference point. And we, after calculating, the 9 billion is not barrels, it's dollars. It's the amount of money that they would be getting if they
Yeah,
made a similar deal with
exactly right.
like the
We
one
talk
Niger
about
had with
Africa's
China.
so wealth. It's so the wealth is so crazy. That's why you got all these NGOs there. My Jamar was telling you about 30,000, 300,000 in Ghana,
Mhm.
20,000 Nigeria. They're not there because it's poor. They're because Africa's very well. The wealth of Africa is astonishing. It's mind blowing. And
And-
the
mhm.
more that we have white people here, we be just as developed as South Africa. Yeah,
Yep.
you
Did you
would
guys
be.
share the video the other day, kid, of when Kenyans were requesting for uh, as like
Question
Kenyans were requesting for reparations from the British government, and
told
the
them
British
no.
press responded saying, "But we gave you civilization. You people would be living like." I showed you that video, right? They
No,
said we gave you
no.
civilization. That's enough
I've seen what
payment.
Joby said. I didn't see. Yeah, of course.
Yep.
How they gonna give you civilization when these motherfuckers couldn't read or write, Demore?
They
How's
said
the
they
bunch
found
of
us wearing animal hides and skins, and they gave us clothes. They gave us everything. So that's enough payment. That's what the British press said.
and they're all lies, Demore. How they gonna give you civilization when you talked about they couldn't read or write and wash their ass?
Hmm.
Nobody gonna bring you civilization. He talking about you taught them how to build. The building, all they did was bring back the shit you taught them, but savagely to rape and kill and colonize you.
And a big shout out to Big Cheese, who's saying this is why they'll spend whatever it takes to keep Africa ignorant of this
Exactly.
wealth and power. And that is all I had today. I hope you join me tomorrow. Job is coming up in the next
So
few
we come
minutes.
back on the network, guys. Go to the network. She's gonna do the
Yeah,
music thing
on the
tonight.
network.
Yeah. She's gonna put a network and TikTok because because she got a music. Today's the music show tomorrow.
Yep.
This one. So today she's doing music. So
Mm-hmm.
join her, join her on the network.
Mm-hmm.
Just go to the show page and leave your comments and your request over there on the show page today. Or go to TikTok. Go to Black Eye Fire TikTok, the Kenyan one. You guys see Joby on TikTok too. So either one. Either one.
So enjoy.
I think Cameron's gonna come back and join again. Shout out to
Enjoy.
the show earlier. That was a good show.
It,
We had 1,200 in there. How
mhm.
to explain to me, people? Explain to me like I'm retarded.
Jiba
How do
Java
you
is telling me to tell Joby to queue up gospel music. So Joby, you queue up gospel music for Jiba today.
yeah, damn, every time with all them goddamn, she had an hour full of uh, uh, inspirational speakers. I was like, hey man, what you doing an hour? This is a music show. You can't do no hour of emotional speakers. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Come on, man. I was on the line, so I couldn't say that. But yeah, explain this to me. I was explain how do you have 1,200 people
Mhm.
on a live? This is how you know we being the show we did with Joby, Maria, the one we did right before Demore, with HR. We've had 1,200 people on the live. How do you get 1,200 people on a live and don't nobody follow your page? That's impossible. Now that you know that we've been shadow banned, I'm surprised. Every 1,200 people on TikTok, we be getting 3,000 on the live. They be heavy. I mean, not TikTok and Twitter. They be
I mean,
heavy
I'm
on
not
Twitter.
even surprised anymore. Don't you can have a live with 30 people on the stream, and then later the views will be
Say
15. It's like
zero.
15
Say
people and watch the
Yeah,
video
it's,
afterwards.
our things don't make no sense at all. You go back stream. At least they got the stream right. Be like 12. Like last week, we got the 3,000 on that live. That's it. And we had 3,000 live, and we lost 20 followers. Like, what?
Shout out to Ellen. So that's all we had, family. Make
Elon
sure to join
Musk,
me
so good.
tomorrow
Elon
on
Musk,
to
so good at
Bombe.
it. Let's,
So
let's
much love,
go.
family.
Come back and join Joby on the like I said, the music show. 12,000 in the damn live stream.